he said, well, let me ask you a question. He goes, if you're going in a direction and they're not following you, are you going to go anyway? I go, he goes, you're still a maverick, but you try a little harder to make sure everybody follows.
Welcome to Confessions of a Vistage Chair. I'm your host, Ryan Hogan. We have real, behind-the-scenes conversations with Vistage Chairs who share honest stories and practical insights on leadership growth, peer advisory groups, and what actually happens in Vistage meetings. Let's pull back the curtain. Georganne, I am so excited to have this conversation. There's a lot of things here. But first and foremost, when I was looking at your background and everything that you've done, you've got this like really kind of unique and interesting background because you started at a global Fortune 500 company and you were working through products and brand marketing and like really deep in consumer. And then it looks like you went out and acquired a company. So there's this like really interesting balance of you know, big corporation and then this entrepreneurial path. What was that like? Where did that come from?
Let me take you back a little bit.
Yeah.
My undergrad was at Simmons College. And when I went to school, they basically said you could be a nurse or a teacher. I go, not happening. My mother said, take a business course. And I was fortunate to have, at the time at Simmons, Harvard professor, they would come over and teach business. And I was like, I love this. This is great. So I majored in business and psychology. I got it. And the other thing they required was an internship. So I did an internship at Gillette in marketing. And they told me, they go, you're not going to get into marketing without an MBA. They'll put you into sales and you'll never get out because they'll want you in sales. And I went, I don't want sales. So we're good. So I got my MBA at NYU, and it was just before a recession was happening when I graduated. So before I graduated, I applied to General Foods and got into General Foods. And that was true marketing back in the day. It was either General Foods or Procter and Gamble if you wanted to be in marketing. And I loved it. And basically what you're doing is you don't have any power, but you're building a business. Okay. You have P&L responsibility. You handle all aspects. And I actually, and I love General Foods. The problem was I moved several times in that period because I moved from General Foods then to Lever Brothers and then to out to Calcan that became Pedigree, part of Mars.
Yeah.
That move was because I met my husband who was in LA and I was in New York. So that's why out there. But the challenge in the big companies, couple things. Marketing people, you never saw anybody like in their 50s in marketing and whatever. So I was looking ahead going, what's the future here? But
Yeah.
more importantly, is the higher I went, the more it was managing people and not the businesses. And it was soul sucking. And I go, this isn't the best use of my talent. And more importantly, is they don't like a very direct female back then or probably now. So one thing that helps me in what I do in Vistage is this direct communication and clarity is much more appreciated and much more necessary on entrepreneurs than it is in big corporations. So when I moved out there and I was at Mars, at that point, my husband, we had our first child. We quit our jobs. We took 4 months with a 9-month-old and went on a trip around the world with TWA.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then we put our house on the market and then we moved to Philadelphia. And so we knew that he had been in big corporations too. He's a Wharton MBA. He was last position out there was with Bushnell, the sports optics of Bosch and Lomb. And he's more on the financial side. So he was like their CFO. So we said, okay, let's buy a business, start a business, and let's do that. And at the time, people were ending up with golden parachutes. So we
Hmm.
couldn't end up in Connecticut or New Jersey or New York because people had a lot more money than we did. So we ended up in Philly where it's a lot of small business, family businesses. And if they don't have somebody to go into the business, they're for sale.
So
So
that's why when you were thinking about like where we're going to move after this 9 month journey, the strategy behind that was like find a location where there are businesses that you would be able to acquire.
yeah, we had even looked at High Point, North Carolina, but we looked around. Well, I can say this. My husband was in the restroom and I said something about using two last names. And he said, "Oh, that's not a problem. It's just what church you belong to." And I go, "This isn't going to work." And we're going to wake up in like 2 years of working on a business and go, where are we? And like, this is not our world. So
Yeah.
that changed the also where we were going to end up and what we were going to do. So that's how we end up. I'm originally from Philly. He went to Wharton. We ended up in Philly. It was a good place, reasonable. And we bought a business. Two gentlemen, they were in their 80s. They had done this on a handshake and were partners longer than they were married to their wives. And we took on the business, and a lot of their customers had died
Mhm. Yeah.
or gone out of business. And it was summertime. And if you know the East Coast, everybody's at the shore.
Yeah.
So we were like, what do we do? Cold calling, going through. And then when I finally got someone who said yes, I realized I didn't know it was office furniture. I didn't know about placement of office furniture and
Yeah.
dimensions or any of this stuff. My husband had said to me, "You'll love it. This is great. It's creative. You'll love doing this." I go, "Okay." So you'll see. I jump in. So we built it up. So I went up to my stepsister was an architect with IM Pei in New York. I went up for a few hours. She taught me what to do. We then went on and built the sales force. We grew 5 times in 4 years. We sold it because a couple things. The margins dropped as soon as we bought it from like 30% to 15 to 10 because they were trying to squeeze out the middle person.
Yeah.
And there were limitations. You couldn't have like expensive lines and medium lines and low lines and people. It was a tough industry. We weren't having fun. This wasn't what we both wanted to stay in and do. So we sold the business, and we then we were sorting of what we really did want to do, and we did network marketing for a while because neither one of us wanted employees. They told us, you don't ever have employees. This is quality of life. So we did that. We built actually into, I don't know, 10 countries or something, and we were enjoying it. But what was the whole transition in my life was my second son, who has learning issues, and he wasn't really diagnosed. We didn't get understand it until he was about 5 years old. And then I said, okay, I can't be a full-time CEO of my own business. I have to figure this out with him and make sure he gets mainstream and self-sufficient. And so I can't not work. So I was doing other things. And I did at one point marketing consulting for Deutsche Bank, Alex Brown in New York. And then our oldest son ended up, they'd both been in private school in Philadelphia. And the oldest son came back from summer camp and said, I only want tennis. He used to play baseball, soccer, lacrosse, squash,
Yeah.
tennis, but he's an incredible athlete. But he comes home and says, I only want tennis. I go, well, Philly's not the place to do that. So I found him Everett Tennis Academy, where you do 4 hours of tennis and 4 hours of school a day. And he
Huh.
went down there. And once he was down there, my youngest son, every day after school, I was taking him to some kind of therapy, vision therapy, occupational therapy. And I was driving on black ice. And I
Hmm.
said, I hate this. I need an environment where I'm not driving on black ice. So I asked my oldest son, can we move down? And he said, yeah, time for a change. So we put the house on the market. 6 months later, we were down here, and we've been here now 26 years. We came down in 2000, and we have a house on the beach here in Delray Beach. Looking, so what? The best
It's
thing
amazing.
about COVID is now I can meet my people on Zoom, and I look past the computer, and I'm looking at the ocean all day long.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, life. I have a blessed life. But that's what got us in the transition. But then the transition was, I can't do something that's mine and build it full time.
No.
So when I got down here, I thought I was going to do marketing. Only in 2000, there was no Google Analytics. There was
Hmm.
no analytics for medium small businesses. And people down here didn't know the difference between marketing and sales. And I did some marketing consulting, but I was like, okay, this isn't working. And I got believe it or not, I came on monster.com and it said it was for tech, the
Yeah.
executive
Back in
committee,
the
what
day.
we call, and it said this meets your salary requirement. But I didn't understand what it was.
Yeah.
I don't know how you found it and you figured out what it was, but I took it into my husband and I go, what is this? And he goes, oh, you got to do this. This is you. I go, but what is it? He goes, call them. You're going to be great at this. I'm like, okay. So I called them and they said, we're not hiring right now. I go, then why are you running an ad? And I go, fine. If you change your mind, here's my name and number. Call me. And they called while I was out and he answered. And so the president of Vistage, Florida talks to my husband my husband goes on for at least 15 minutes of why I'm the most incredible person and then I'd be incredible for this and all of that. And then when he gets a word in edgewise, it was Chip Webster, he says to my husband, do you think maybe you're biased? And he goes, not at all. Wait till you meet her. Not at all. So I had that to live up to, but they put you through all the testing, they put you through all the thing. And the winning part to it was they were willing to train me before I had to commit to what I was going to do. And I'm like, I'm always up for learning and growing and said, okay, I'll do that. And once I went through that, as long as they could promise me it wasn't continuous recruiting, like
Mhm.
the thing about being in network marketing is you have to be a promoter. I'm
Yep.
not a promoter. If I believe in something, no problem. But I am not a promoter. So he's like, nope, there's just CEOs and it's a limited number. And so, no. So I go, okay, I'll do it. I had never, when I started, I had never been to a meeting. I had
Wow.
never been a member. I had never experienced it other than the training and one event up in Orlando for the chairs. And like, I still didn't really have a clue. So I probably should apologize to my early members.
One of the things Mark Taylor was talking about this last week, and I didn't realize this, but it's not both of you kind of came in and around kind of the same time, and he was like, "Never in my life have I sweated so much going through the interview process." Was yours just as arduous for like the?
Well, first of all, Vistage Florida is different than Vistage International.
Got it.
Okay, we're a licensee. So I flew to Tampa and met with Chip. And then, but what they had was, they did like, I think they did predictive index and they did
Yeah.
some other personality test. And again, I think because I didn't know what it was and I didn't know
Yeah.
they, whether I get it or not, I didn't have that much on the line, okay, in terms of it. And I don't know
Yeah.
that I knew there was a right answer. I will tell you this. I think Vistage members self select. And if you look at my I am most CEO's profile. Okay. Um, and the only difference is instead of being a maverick, I've become a persuader over time.
Ooh.
Well, but the PI person said to me, I called him, I go, you said this doesn't change. Why did this change? He said, well, let me ask you a question. He goes, if people, if you're going in a direction and they're not following you, are you going to go anyway? I go, he goes, you're still a maverick, but you try a little harder to make sure everybody follows.
That's awesome.
So I am them.
Yeah.
I get them, but I also have it's diverse.
Mhm.
As a member, we want diversity. So I have many that don't fit that pattern, that are slower to process, slower to speak up and go through that. And that's where I have chilled down a bit to personal growth in this is phenomenal for us as well
Mhm.
as our members. My husband will tell you that.
I I love that. And you know what's interesting about this is like you had all the experience. Like you are perfect for this. You had not just the corporate experience and seeing how like larger companies operate, but then you had the CEO journey and the entrepreneurial journey where everything's on the line and there are no right answers and you're figuring it out and there are no processes in place. My first company, I didn't know Vistage existed. I didn't know that there was peer groups and I ran that company straight into the ground. And once I found it, like just my world opened up as far as like, oh, there's other people that have similar problems that, we can process together and grow and learn and do all these amazing things together. When it's funny that you found out about peer groups and this after, your entrepreneurship and your CEO tenures and things like that. Do you look at what you do now and then like look back and be like, I can't believe that I didn't find something like this?
Well, here's the thing. So when I was in big companies, like in General Foods especially, right? If you had a question, you just walked down the hall and you had like dozens of other smart people who had experience. I mean, it was phenomenal. That the resource was there.
Yeah.
When it was my husband and I, we'd look at each other and we go, and it's our money now on the
Yeah.
line. We go, what do you think? Well, what do you think? And we weren't probably we're risk takers, obviously, because of the things we've done, but
Yeah.
not extreme. Okay. And we tried different things. We created quick ship for furniture, right? So
Mhm.
that people, they moved in and it was the lower lines, but they could have furniture immediate, to them immediately. And we worked with a warehouse that had, and we created a catalog and we got that out. So we try new things in that industry, which is an industry that probably hadn't changed a lot in years. And just as we were selling the business, YPO had reached out to me to see if I wanted to join YPO. Again, I think also because we had each other, it wasn't as
Yeah.
and he has you know as much training as I've had, like
Mhm.
to weather through it. Like he was running the numbers, he was running the guys, delivery guys, and the operations part, and so we worked together on that, and we both went to boot camp to learn selling because neither one of us had that background at all. So it was we searched out and we did find support, but yes, it would have been great to have a Vistage group or a tech group back then.
Mm.
Absolutely, I wish there was something like that. But what also helps me, and I've done differently, I think, than a lot of chairs, having come from big companies, when I came down here, like there were $50 million companies and they had no business plan. I'm like, how does that even happen? How do you know what you're doing? How do you know? How do I help you reach your goals if there are none, if none of this
Yeah.
is laid out? So, Jim Alampi, we had years ago. Jim Alampi was a speaker who was partners with Gino Wickman and the one from Rockefeller Habits.
Hmm.
They were all three partners. And when they split up, they all tweaked that same business plan. Okay. And Jim was a Vistage speaker. I grabbed his 2-page business plan long before Gino came out with traction and all that, and started doing that with any new member. I put them through that. Because again, how are we going to build something, and how do you have culture, and how do you have all the other things in your company without that? So I have taken the structure from big corporations to apply so that there is structure. Plus, having now had 14 or more exits, of sales of companies successful, I also have seen the whole, I won't say life cycle because there's a life after that, but that whole cycle, to understanding growing the value of the business, not growing just the business.
Hmm.
Okay. And that's helped put in, again, them having a plan so that they're truly working on what will build value. And when you exit, you've got to have that purpose and culture carried through, and the team that operates without you running everything. All the basic things that they're looking for. So I make sure that they're building that as they're building. And again, there's enough people who have been through all different parts of that cycle in the group, so they have the value of that within the group as well.
Hmm. You just brought up a really interesting point. This idea about like growing value, and I just had a conversation. We hired a fractional CMO to come in, and we're growing very fast. And there's some certain things where I'm like, but we're not growing the value. So it's like lifestyle and cash flow business, great. Like, okay, but growing the value to me has always been incredibly important. When you think about growing enterprise value in an organization, what are like the one, two, three things that come immediately to mind where it's like they need these things?
There's 7, and I'm
Oh.
going to tell you, go to my website and you can do, there's an assessment you can take.
Mhm.
It's a briefer version of the whole thing, but it'll give you a rating as if you were going to sell your business today. What percent of your money are you leaving on the table? So then you can see, I should be building out my team so that it can operate on its own. I have something that I have contracts that are reoccurring, or I have something that creates more reoccurring income, or sticky
Yeah.
income. But I do it for members, in the beginning, because again, you want to build. There is always an exit. Every
Mhm.
business has an exit. It may be to the next generation, it may be selling it, it may be whatever, but there's always an exit. And you want that exit to be optimized in its value
Mhm.
for whatever that next step is. And to have that thought through. It's interesting. I was fortunate enough through one of my members to go to Harvard Business School family business course.
Hmm.
And I've been doing Vistage already over 20 years. And and I also took a Lee Thayer course. And the two just changed, they blew my mind, because when I always started in this and work with people, it's like you're climbing a mountain, but they're here, and you're helping them get here. But when I went to those courses, I went, I learned two thoughts. One is, what is the ultimate scenario? Like, what mountain are we climbing?
Mhm.
And why? What is the purpose of that climb? In order to then say, okay, where's the gap and how do we get you there? As opposed to just giving you some, I don't want to call them band-aids, but tools to just get a little further, make life a little easier in what you're doing here.
Yeah.
And in the family business, most businesses are started just like you said. Okay, I have an idea and all this stuff, but you don't think ahead that you're going to be successful. So you don't put in governance. You
Yeah.
don't put in all kinds of any kind of structure and stuff that if you thought and knew you were going to be successful, you would build these things in. So there are all these kids at Harvard, they're all from around the world, that their parents have built businesses and they're going, okay, we want you to take over the business. And they're like, this is a hornet's nest. I don't want to take this over
Yeah.
because they've got to build all that stuff in. And it's like, and who's going to listen to them just coming in and what? And so it was fascinating to me. It just gave me a whole nother perspective that I never had before, that I able to bring into, Vistage and into everything I do. So
I love that. And like, and the two things that you said immediately, number one was that the business can operate on its own, which all goes back to the people, making sure you've got the right people in the right seats. And then number two was the predictable and recurring revenue. And it's like getting those two things locked in is like some of the massive unlocks for growing enterprise value.
if you can show that your forecasts, that you can forecast accurately year over year,
Mhm.
you'll get 2 to 3 times the multiple you would get in your industry, because that people want to minimize, buyers want to minimize risk. Okay. So the things you're doing to shore it up are the things that minimize the risk of them buying
Mm.
it. Okay. So when you, and that's in, you'll see that in that when you take the assessment, you'll see some of the things and go, yeah, that would be for minimizing risk, and that would be for growth opportunity. Those are the things they're looking for, right? That it
Yeah.
continue to grow, and if we put some more money or we platform or strategically, where does that fit? And so we can grow more on it. And the other side is, what's my risk in buying this thing versus
Mhm.
something else? So those are the things that you're affecting on the bigger picture.
All right, quick break, friends. Do you find it impossible to hire and retain top sales talent? Or worse, are you paying insane recruiter fees who are all using outdated hiring processes? Yeah, I was too. At Hunt to Killer, we were spending hundreds of thousands on recruiter agency fees. And after I sold that company in 2025, I started Talent Harbor. And the whole vision here was to make sales recruiting accessible to small and medium sized businesses, because the organizations that can hire and retain world class people are the ones that ultimately win. Most organizations rely on things like ZipRecruiter or LinkedIn, and they get hundreds, if not thousands, of resumes. But we find that the best salespeople are already perfectly placed somewhere else. And that's why our approach is to go after them. And we do that through a business model called recruiting as a service. We do not charge commissions. We do not have success fees. We don't have contracts. We don't have long-term engagements. And we become an extension of your team as expert sales recruiters. If you're tired of the same old recruiters and want to actually grow your sales team, check us out at talentharbor.com. That's Talent Harbor, TALENTHARBOR.com. Let's get your next sales superstar hired. One of the things that you talked about in this is in startups, and like when people have a great business idea and they go out to market and they're not quite like, they can see it, but they're not like expecting this gigantic success, so they don't put anything into place and they're just go go go. When you're looking at situations like that and thinking through like the standard build infrastructure, build processes, like figure all these things out that are very meaningful and already in place at large corporations. How do you think about the balance between like not necessarily scaling, but like product market fit, trying to like fine tune, the execution, all of these things that the business owners are constantly worried about, alongside building that infrastructure. Is your belief before, someone's got an idea, they
Yeah.
put together a 100-page business plan, or is it like, how do you balance it?
No, no, I would never. That's why I work with the 2-page business plan.
Yeah.
And the only thing I add to that 2-page business plan is an org chart for now and then like 3 years or a year from now, and a pro forma for past, now, to going up to 3 years, right? So that I would never waste my time doing a even a 50-page business plan. That's just death by a million cuts. Like, things change just too radically in these markets. What's important, and now the beauty of AI is you can create process and playbooks in hours, not weeks, months, all the time, and agony that it took to do it before.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. So that's the fun part, is that all that can be done easily. It helps to have a process person managing that, and not usually the CEO or whatever. And like, I'm not the right person. I am not. I'm a 30,000, 50,000 foot. And
Yeah.
I probably don't. I have taught my members, like, they'll go, well, you didn't do that going this way, and now you cut my time off. I go, did anybody ever tell you that I was consistent? No.
Yeah. It's so interesting when you bring up AI, and I'm just going to brag just for a little bit, because over the weekend, so I'm in the Navy Reserves. I've been in the Navy for
Oh,
25
wow.
years now, and I was up in Spokane, and there's not much to do after like my work, and I'm 1,000 miles north, and so I'm just staying in a hotel, and I've heard all about this like vibe coding. I've never coded anything in my life. But
Hmm.
we've got this really hard business problem right now, where we have a commissioning or a commission slash bonus plan that we believe incentivizes the behaviors that drive success for the organization, but
Right.
it's incredibly complicated to like manually
Yeah.
calculate. And so I kept hearing about like, oh, you can like vibe code things. So I get in the cloud and I'm like, here's my problem. What do you think I should do? And it was like, well, I can build you a quick app for that. And I was like, well, what do I need to, what? Like, what do I need to do? And 60, I'm not saying it's perfect. We've got some
Right, right,
validation to
right,
do over the
right.
next
That's
couple
okay.
months. But it was like create this open API thing inside of HubSpot. Okay, went in the HubSpot and it gave me all the instructions, did all that, and then it's like, great, go get your token. Got my token. Okay, let me code something for you real quick. It coded it, and it was like, put your token here, put the token here, and then it's running, and it's like, this is the information I'm seeing. It looks like we've got the right information. It now implement this code, and so I copied and pasted, and it literally gave me 3 months worth of commissions. And then I was like, well, it's like all like plain text. I was like, hey, here's the information it gave me. Can you make this pretty? And then it created a dashboard. So now I have this beautiful dashboard that is sucking
Yes.
information real time.
Yes. And
Crazy.
then here's the things that you want to do: go back and say, critique what you've built.
Oh,
And you
yeah.
can also ask it to stress test it, to run it with whatever, and make sure for accuracy. Like,
Yeah.
how accurate is this? Are you seeing where there's any errors in it? Whatever. So you can go back and make it do it, check all the stuff, which you should do. Okay.
Yeah.
For more than a year and a half or more, I've been wanting to update my website, and nothing has happened. So I went on Claude and I said, okay, here's my current website, and I want to make it more focused for people who want to sell their business, because that's my highest and best use, is really working with them to get the highest value for their business. So I go, I want to focus on that. Also, still keep Vistage, still keep executive coaching, but this is the focus here. And it built it in, it wasn't even an hour, and it I sent it to the person who does my website or whatever, but he goes, this is this, but I can take this now and put it into still, forget the name, and build that out and do this, and we'll have more pages. You'll have your buttons, you'll have your assessment, you'll have all that stuff. But he did that all in a total of 40 hours, where it was taking months and year to get it done.
Yep.
And before him, it was 5 years and it never got built. So I
Yeah.
love it. And one of the things we're doing, so I've had over the last 2 years, I've had at least 3 or 4 speakers on AI for my members.
Mhm.
But what I'm doing this month is we're doing a workshop, because I still see some people it's their business. They're building these things for other people and part of it, or as part of their business. But I have others who still are like, well, I don't know how we can estimate with us, or I can't do this with us, and I can't do this with it. And I don't know how to do it, but we're going to break into smaller groups in there that are, a few projects, and have them figure it out together,
Mhm.
then share what they built, to the group. And then if there's others, but it'll give them at least the confidence to go back and start doing workshops in their companies to bring it through, which is the most important thing they could be doing. Okay, with
Yep.
this. The biggest challenge for CEOs is what you said with yourself when you were building your company and you didn't have any outside sounding board or information. You were just in your own little world. You can't be in this volatile world that we're in.
Yep.
I had one CEO group until 2009. That's when I launched my second one when the recession hit,
Mhm.
because in 2007 I had all my members build plans that said, if you're we had word from Vistage was starting to say, I think it was still tech then, was starting to say there's a recession coming, possibly, blah blah blah. I said, okay, if your business goes down 20%, what are you going to do? If your business goes down 40%, what are you going to do? Create a plan. I want you to have plans and you know exactly what you're going to do. Since then, we call them DevCon plans, and they build them every year. And I now have learned to say, stress test them when you're not emotional and see
Mhm.
if you really will fire Joe, or you're not gonna, when the time comes, you're not gonna do it. So find another alternative to saving money, right?
Yeah.
Cash. And so, but Vistage gives you that. And in 2009, when all these other chairs were saying, oh, I'm losing members, this is horrible, I went, you know what? This is the best opportunity to build, because CEOs need us now more than ever. And that's when I built the second group. And I built it in 6 weeks, and we were off and running. And what we've been able to do again is, so when COVID hit,
Mhm.
we had daily Zoom meetings at the beginning, because nobody knew what was happening. This is a time when you need information and you're not alone. So we had daily Zoom meetings. Then we got to weekly. We made sure every business was an essential business, so it stayed open. We made sure everybody got PPP money, because anybody that was with a big bank, they were stuck in this portal. They didn't know if they were getting money. They couldn't check. Nobody could tell them anything. We got them with local banks, and we got
Yep.
them PPP money. We, what we do work tiger teams. I don't know if your Vistage groups do, but if someone's business is going the wrong way, we form a tiger team and a small group of individuals, get them all the information, and then we help them build a plan and hold them accountable
Yep.
till they work out of that. And then the other side is when somebody's selling, helping them to make sure they pick the right investment banker, that they do that they're looking at the information. Oh, that their book is good. That because too often it's like real estate sell people, they just want to
Yep.
make the sale. You got to have somebody who sees your secret sauce and understands strategically what the market's willing to pay more for. Is it a platform? Is it a bolt on? Is it a geography? What is it that will make it worth more than anybody else in your industry? And what's going to get people's interest in it? And
Yep.
who are you looking for? So all that stuff, I get Tiger Team as well as we work through that, because I'll also say this other part, which is members listen to their fellow members more than they do a, a chair and a coach.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but they'll listen to them 100 times over, and I'm like, that's fine. I don't care where they hear it, as long as they hear it and act on it. And it's maybe because they don't want to get chided afterwards, or you can answer this better because you're in a group.
Yeah.
You can tell me why that is, but it's my observation.
And to your point with I was just on a Tiger Team 2 weeks ago, and we had 2 sessions as a part of the Tiger Team. We did it via Zoom, and it was one very specific problem, and it was, I think, 4 of us from the group that came together
Yeah.
to help another person, and it was incredible. You mentioned the chaos. I feel you on the PPP stuff, and all of the COVID stuff. Like, we were shipping out of a warehouse in Baltimore. It was not essential. And so we had to start to make moves very early on to make sure we could still get boxes out of the warehouse.
Right.
So like, we had to order certain things to like make sure that the warehouse classified essential. And then we had like 3 backup plans to get our stuff into another warehouse that was a 3PL
Yep.
that had essential stuff. Um, when you think about like downturns and things like that, and you're having your members put together plans, there's this like old notion of, if you can grow through it and like come out of it stronger, then like you come out at a full sprint versus like coming out and you just right size the company. What's kind of your philosophy there when people are thinking through, hey, we've got some economic headwinds coming up, and make sure that we've got those contingent plans? Do you put it through the lens of like, these plans should be able to get us at a full sprint once we come out of whatever these headwinds are? Or is it like emergency action plans, cut, reduce, and then start to figure out how to push forward once it's over?
Let me just say, most businesses don't go into bankruptcy in the recession. It's coming out. They
Hmm.
don't have the cash for the growth, for the inventory, for growing. So it's making sure that you have enough resources. And I would, obviously from what you were saying, it's people as well as cash, but that you have the right resources that you can grow out of there,
Yeah.
because obviously you'll pick up from people who don't, right? But hope is not a strategy during these times,
Yeah.
okay? And it's the people who don't take action, who hope they're going to be okay, that don't make it through,
Hmm.
okay?
Yeah.
So it's looking at all of your resources, your absolute essential people, essential roles, essential, but making sure you have that cash nest egg. And that's what's been hard right now with this whole tariff on, tariff off, tariff. I have people who would like to grow, and that's the other thing. You want to have the cash to be able to buy up distressed businesses,
Yeah.
to take that on, and so that's a critical piece. And I have people right now who could be buying some companies that are more distressed, but the inventory with the tariff is
Yeah.
costing them so much money that their resources are tied up in inventory, and they don't want to be over leveraged, because if we keep having inflation and interest rates and all that, they won't get caught out there, because that's what the first recession happened,
Hmm.
was that people were over leveraged and they couldn't get banks to work with them to do a workout. And one of my members, he did a planned bankruptcy, and
Yeah.
in the end, the company that bought him, a PE firm, after about 6 weeks, they were playing nice, but then they said, no nepotism, and he left the key, and he didn't have a contract, and he didn't have a non-compete, and he left the keys on the desk. He said, see you later. And then
Yeah.
he rebuilt and he bought distressed companies in his industry, and his company's now about 150 million, and he's but he does not get over leveraged. He does not have a lot of debt, but he's great because he's in the group and he's a phoenix, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to have phoenixes in your group, because you're a phoenix. You
Yeah.
you burned and you came back and you learned from it. That you're an important
So
person
much.
to have in the group.
It's it resonated so deeply when you were like, and now he knows not to get over leveraged, and that's the same thing. So we raised, oof, we raised 12 million in equity, and probably over time. So we weren't carrying 20 million in debt, but we raised 25 million in debt between like you know um, rolling inventory, rolling credit lines, things like that. Um, and like you get to this place where you can't even focus on the vision or the future anymore. All you can focus on is like making sure payments get paid. Why is stuff tied up in the port? Like whatever's going on, but all you're doing at that point is just putting out fires, and you're working in the business, and the business isn't really moving. Um, so love that lesson learned, because like I learned the same thing.
What you see, I think, in Vistage is more organic growth. It's not that they
Mhm.
don't do acquisitions and all, but it's not just deals.
Yeah.
Okay, they don't come into Vistage. That's not where we can help them the most.
And like the problem that we had, it was a timing issue. So when you think back to 2010, 2011, there was like Dollar Shave Club was launching, and there was these consumer product companies coming out of nowhere, growing incredibly fast,
Yeah.
profitless, most of them losing money, raising VC. And then they got these incredible SaaS like technology like exits, because the conglomerates didn't, they were like, well, how are they growing so fast? They're taking our market share. But they didn't do enough of the analysis to figure out that like it was all based upon Facebook algorithms and their ability to put out creative content. And so Dollar Shave Club got acquired, Harry's Razors got acquired. Like all of these companies, there was a watch brand, they all started to get acquired. And 5 years after they were acquired, the consumer product companies just wrote them off because they realized it was an unsustainable business. But it was like market share, and they were getting top line revenue. And so Hunt to Killer was in the 2016, watching all of this stuff happen. And so we came in and we're growth for growth, but that window closed. And so very quickly, what we had to do during the pandemic was we had to get profitable, because we were just burning cash growth for growth. And we're like, there's going to be a multiple on our top line, because that was the history. And then once that business hypothesis didn't pan out for the big corporations, it was like, oh, we have to run a real company now. Um, and that's a hard that's a hard shift mid-flight to get there. So yeah,
But you did it. Yeah.
we did it. We
Okay.
did it. We shifted. We got into Target, Walmart, Barnes and Nobles. That really helped us like get profitable, because then we
Okay.
didn't have to invest so much money in social media marketing. And then I sold it in 2024. So 2 years now.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, just not that long ago.
no, took 6 months off. Well, off is relative. I was at the Naval War College at the time, so did some studies there, and then looked for what was next, and that was the business service space. So this is a lot of fun.
Good. Oh, that's great. And Chewy's another example of that. But it wasn't because it was because all those pet company things had tried to build e-commerce and they
Hmm.
were unsuccessful.
Yeah,
And Chewy made no money. They sold their products below cost of what they had to buy them at, but they got the customer base. and
Yep.
they sold it based on the customer base, and they sold it for a lot. I mean, that was, and obviously they still exist, and I hope they make money now. But
Oh,
it's a different model than, yeah, than we teach or build or tend to work with. But I'll tell you one thing though. Here's what I've seen from the companies that have been bought from my groups. They have wanted to keep on those CEOs for as long as possible and shelter them from all any nonsense or whatever, because they're some of the few people that know how to grow a business organically.
yeah.
And so a lot of the other acquisitions they made and stuff they were all deals and whatever. They didn't have that substance. And so that says a lot. That says you really have, quality business builders, and they've learned what to do, and that support is there. That's an incredible place. Again, as you said, yeah, if I was going to stay in that, if I was going to be in my own business, definitely would want to be in a Vistage group.
Yeah. And that, like, I don't want to poo-poo too much on the fundraising and the VC path and family office
No,
path
it
and all
makes
that stuff,
sense.
because there's a place for it. However, I will tell you, it is much more challenging, much more hard to grow a profitable business, because when it's other people's money, you just put together a beautiful pitch deck. You go pitch 100 people, you'll get one person that comes on, they'll bring in a few friends, and now you've got money. Anybody can burn cash. I can go out and figure out some things to invest in and advertising and stuff like that. So I love what you just said right there, where it's like Vistage members know how to grow profitable businesses, and from personal experience, those are the hardest businesses to grow. So, yeah, uh, Georganne, we're there. I mean, first and foremost, I just wanted to thank you so much for taking the time to come on. You shared your journey, and like what an incredible journey of like going through the global Fortune 500 companies, and then starting your own businesses, and then getting into Vistage. Um, I guess two last questions. Number one, uh, I'm assuming your groups are open to more members at this point. Are you welcoming new members?
Always, because there's
Okay.
always change. I tend to keep them full as
Yeah.
much as possible. But yes, there's always space, and I'm always looking for that person that's going to add to the group. One of my most successful members right now, he's probably 42 now. He came in 7 years ago, but he's built that business from maybe 10 million to over 80 million now.
Wow.
And but what he did, which is what's interesting, I mean, it's um, it's for hair, and it's chip clippers and shavers and all this other stuff. But what he used is he didn't use like uh, big influencers. They're
Hmm.
really what they're called now as content creators,
Yeah.
the smaller ones, but the ones that, and they started just using and talking and building his stuff, and then he'd sport them and repost them and whatever. But he built that business on this
Hmm.
whole thing. And so when I can bring somebody in who's growing and utilizing what's there, right? What's new, I
Yeah.
want that in the group, because my guys need to know this. They need to be adapting and growing and doing this. So it's always for people who, when somebody decides that their business, they want to downsize and have a lifestyle business, the group is willing to say thank you and goodbye, because our groups are really about growing and uh, evolving and all of that, as opposed to we're not a club
Yeah.
that just a nice. I will say, and I value this amazingly, is that the support and the caring of the members to each other
Hmm.
is also though incredible, and I'm not sure they have it anywhere else, and they can be that open. And that to me is means everything, because I've seen them when somebody's going through a really bad time, they're there for them. They're
Yeah.
still there, and they care, and they mean it. Now, they also challenge them and hold them accountable, but in a caring. You've heard that, Ryan. You've heard the term, right?
Yeah.
Carefrontational.
Yep.
Okay, we live it.
every meeting, every session.
And my members will tell you I'm probably that also. There are kinder, softer people than me.
Yeah. I love it. Okay, so that's good to know. And then number two, so someone just started, and you're based out of, for the audience?
Oh, well, I'm in Delray Beach, Florida. So I'm in South Florida. Anything, and that's Vistage, Florida, as opposed to Vistage International, is how they can
Got it.
find us or me.
And then what would be, so if someone just listened to this and they're like, oh, I'm a growth mindset CEO in South Florida looking for this amazing thing called Vistage. What is the best way for them to get a hold of you?
I have a website, coach the number 4 execs.com. Georganne Goldblum in LinkedIn. I think I'm findable on Vistage Florida's website as well.
Nice.
Uh,
Awesome.
they call you, Ryan, and
Uh,
say, how do I
I'll put them
find
to
that
you.
woman?
I'll put them immediately in touch.
Or how do I avoid that woman?
Georganne, thank you so much for taking an hour this morning on a Monday of all days to come on and share your journey, share your lessons. So many valuable things in here. And one thing that I loved, and we didn't even have time to get into it, but was the org chart and putting together an org chart for the future. We're about to run an exercise like this just because someone told us about it a few weeks ago. I was like, oh, it's a brilliant idea. Anyhow, I'm going to have you back on because I would love just to do a deep dive into that as well. But just wanted to thank you for your time and coming on.
Thanks. And when you pull together this like vision and do all this, and then you want to run it by me, send it over. I'm happy to look at it and talk with you guys and do that. Okay.
I'm going to send it to you. Awesome. Thanks so much, Georganne. Appreciate it.